Welcome back to The Great Debate, where this week we're asking, is Britain still great? Now, whatever you think about Brexit now, there's no doubt it caused the biggest rift in the firmament of this country for decades. Britain's separated itself from Europe and dispensed with the old checks and balances that were once so familiar. But big questions remain over Northern Ireland, over trade, of course, over immigration. Let's talk first to Louise Brown about this. Louise, what's your view?
Britain is not still great. We've completely lost our standing in the world. I'm from Sunderland, and we were promised sunny uplands from Brexit, which certainly hasn't happened, let alone the infamous levelling up. So my question would be, if you could undo Brexit, knowing what we know now, would you?
Thank you, Louise. Louise's question for the panel. If you knew what you know now, would you undo Brexit? Gina Miller surprised me.
Simple answer, of course I would. But you can't, it's a hypothetical. But it's not what I know now, it's what I knew before and all the way along, because the debate was very black and white, and that's what I think one of the problems is. It's so nuanced. You can't have a 40-year relationship and try and reduce it to a slogan. But also, I would do because of the future generations, because the issues coming down the road do not have borders, be it the environment, be it the mass movement of people, be it the age of pandemics, whatever it is. Our young people deserve us to be part of a bloc where we actually were exercising our soft power and where we need to be collectively dealing with the issues that are going to be globally affecting all of us. And so I think for their sake, I would absolutely undo it.
John Longworth, you were what is now called a Brexiteer. Any buyer's remorse?
None at all. Like all revolutions, it takes time for things to unravel. And of course, we had a situation in 2016 where, unfortunately, we had an administration for a number of years that did everything in its power, along with a Remainer Parliament, to actually undermine and reverse the vote of the people of the United Kingdom. The main thing is that the UK now has self-determination. The people of Britain can decide their own future, and that's the main thing. But on the economy, a lot of the benefits have not yet been seen. And that's because we're only now getting a government that's prepared to drive those forward. But nonetheless, you know, Germany's economy right now is a basket case. We have massively lower unemployment than most European countries. Our inflation rate is comparable. We're doing OK versus the EU, and the banking system in the EU has systemic problems.
John,
the EU could yet collapse.
John, you can't see it from where you are, but I do have to tell you that the view just expressed is not a tremendously popular view with our viewers panel. Deborah Meaden, you were you were a lukewarm Remainer, I think?
Yes, but I'm really surprised. What I was shaking my head about, I was really surprised to hear John's talk about self-determination, because anybody who does international trade understands that if you want to trade with a country, you have to agree the rules by which you trade. Unfortunately, now we have to agree that with every single country. Before, we could simply trade with our biggest trading partner without having to agree the rules because they were already set. Now, I have seen too many businesses fall foul of that. And when I say fall foul, I mean close, shut up shop, lives devastated, to even contemplate that that is a good thing. Now, that's only one aspect of Brexit, and I think it's difficult to overturn something that the majority of people thought they wanted. Right now, I think we have to get our relationship with the EU right. We're not even talking. You know, we haven't resolved half of the issues. It's like we don't like each other now, you know, and we've got to work those things out, or we're going to see more devastation.
All right, I want to talk to somebody who actually came from one of our, former EU partners, Carlos Enrique. Carlos, what's your view? You've been here 20 years, I think?
Yeah, that's correct. Good evening. So when I came to England, I found Britain was very open, welcoming and free. I managed to make a career here, get a British passport, and that's what makes Britain great. I have noticed, however, in my opinion, that over time this has changed. Years of austerity result in the priorities of the public opinion shifting towards more domestic national values. An example of this is the Rwanda immigration camps. Is it possible to get back to a more tolerant Britain?
Carlos, did you think of the Brexit vote as part of this trend that you've just identified?
No. I think it came from the time of austerity. It came from the financial crisis. It came from looking for people to blame for the financial crisis, and they didn't aim to the right people.
OK, that's interesting. James, I mean, we write for the same newspaper. I have no idea where you were on Brexit. What's your view about this?
I think I was with Deborah. I was definitely a Brexit sceptic, but not fanatically so. I think everything that's happened since has pushed me in the Gina direction. I think really we found out recently what a vulnerable and slightly frightening place the modern world can be, and that the European Union just looks more and more attractive, I think, the more we experience these slightly kind of terrifying storms that are, running through the modern economy, the pandemic, all these things.
John, how do you respond to this? That the traffic seems to be going away from you.
Well, of course, there are lots of institutions and organisations and people who are very keen for the UK not to succeed outside the European Union, because it would actually undermine the European Union's hold on countries that are in the Union. If we succeed, we demonstrate that having left, we're doing very well, and therefore the EU may not be relevant. So that is one of the factors to take into account. There's no question in my mind that actually our trade deals around the world have been, in some cases, superior to those that the EU have been able to negotiate themselves. In fact, we have trade deals that they don't have.
It's just
That's not true.
Deborah.
That is not true.
It's not.
No, it is
well,
true.
Actually,
It is true, I'm
it's
afraid.
not.
It is
Can I
true.
ask John which trade
Yes,
deal
which
is
trade
better
deal?
than the trade deal we had with the biggest trading bloc in the world? Which trade deal?
Well, let me just say this. The European Union always goes for the lowest common denominator. So if
Can I
Italian
just say,
tomato
the question
producers
is
don't
really
like it...
simple.
Trade deal.
Which trade deal is better than the one we had with the EU?
We've had superior trade deals with Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, to name just a few, than the EU.
Let him respond. Which one,
Than the
John?
EU have.
You were talking about Australia.
Yeah, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, we've had superior trade deals with those countries than the EU have with those countries. Similarly, Japan. So we are actually doing just as well because we're actually defending and promoting our own interests. And let's not forget, tariffs around the world are an average of 2%. Actually, having trade deals isn't the be-all and end-all anyway. If we really wanted to increase our productivity and make things better, we would unilaterally remove tariffs and non-tariff barriers to imports. Because
Gina,
that will make people
let's talk of trade
richer
deals. It's not
and lower
the end of the
living.
world.
Nick, can I just say, because this started off as a theoretical question from one of the panellists, one of the audience. Just to get it absolutely clear, we have Brexited and it's legal and it's done and it's been years and years. So we do actually have to try and make it the best deal we can make it. But the way we're acting with the EU, with our partners, is not inspiring confidence. And when it comes to trade deals around the world, the one that we should have done and we were told we would get is the US. And that is nowhere near. I mean, it's not even on the table. I mean, forget it. It's just not happening anytime. And when it comes to replicating trade deals we had in other places, That's not the same as actually striking a new trade deal. And we haven't actually finished striking these trade deals. We're talking to people about some of them. And, you know, if you look at what we did with Japan, that was much more inferior than what we had with the EU. When it looks to Australia, look at what the Australian deal is going to do to our farmers, to our agriculture. It's sold them down the stream. You know, this idea, we have to be honest with the public because there is no going back. So why not tell them the truth?
John, we're kidding people.
Well, we are telling the truth. No, that's completely rubbish. The deal with Japan was superior to the EU's deal. The Australia deal is managed over a long period of time. And I find it quite astounding that people will actually say that we shouldn't have cheaper food and lower the cost of living for British people.
OK, this is one topic on which my powers of persuasion of bringing people together are obviously going to fail. Let's go to the break. This is The Great Debate.